So when talking about just day-to-day brain function and learning and ability to just kind of focus throughout the day, there's a couple of important dietary strategies that can be put into place. One of the main things that I like to focus on is breakfast. And breakfast is such an important meal of the day. If you look at a standard American breakfast, it usually consists of a bowl of cereal, and that's pretty much it. If you think about how many of our kids are running out the door before school on just a bowl of Cheerios or a bowl of any type of high sugar cereal, that's all they're getting. And what happens when a diet that's high in sugars initially is that you'll get this really huge increase in blood sugar, and then it's digested very quickly by the body. And that's followed by a really sharp decrease in your blood sugar availability, which causes that crash. And so oftentimes in terms of school performance, we'll see a couple of hours after school starts that kids are losing focus, they're becoming fidgety, they're just, starting to act up from a behavior standpoint. And one dietary strategy to kind of overcome that is to do a more protein-dense breakfast in the morning rather than a high-sugar breakfast in the morning. And so by focusing on a high-protein breakfast and a low-sugar one, what you're doing is having a more slow release of blood sugar throughout the morning. So it's kind of more of your really nice bell curve shape as far as a release into the blood sugar. There's no really steep peaks and there's no quick drop-offs. And so as a result, you're not having that sharp change in blood sugar, which is causing behavior changes, lack of focus and concentration. So a good example of a breakfast to eat would be something like scrambled eggs with spinach and maybe a side of blueberries, as opposed to like a bowl of cereal in the morning. Any type of protein-dense breakfast will work. Smoothies are really popular right now as well, and so adding any type of yogurt or nut butter or nuts and seeds that will increase the protein content of those smoothies, along with berries or any high antioxidant food, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that can be really helpful for enhancing memory and learning and preventing those blood sugar lows that can happen after a high sugar intake. Another thing to think about too is just hydration. Depending on which location you live in, here in Colorado it's very high and dry, and so dehydration is really common. Ideally, I recommend about half your body weight in ounces of water per day. If you think about the majority of our cells, about 75% of our body is made up of water. And if you're not getting adequate daily water intake, then your body's going to feel sluggish. You're not going to be able to concentrate and focus. And so just simply getting adequate water intake throughout the day can be a really powerful tool to have optimal learning, cognitive function, and just performance on the job or in school. So that's an important piece as well. A couple of things to avoid in the diet. One is high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is a very highly processed form of corn sugar, basically. And it's used a lot in sodas, a lot of processed juices, and it's actually found in a lot of products across the board. High fructose corn syrup, there was a study done that showed that rats that were fed corn syrup over the course of a period of time had slower and slower learning ability and actually began to lose cognitive function, which actually means that it to some degree was causing a little bit of brain damage, and if you think about a typical American diet and how many of our kids are fed corn syrup after corn syrup products, that's quite alarming, and how that can ultimately impact school performance and an adult's job performance across the board. So I really do recommend eliminating all sources of high fructose corn syrup. Another thing to look at eliminating is trans fatty acids. So trans fatty acids, if you look on an ingredient label, would be labeled as partially hydrogenated. Typically it's soybean oil, but it can also be cottonseed oil as well. So anything on a label that says partially hydrogenated and then blank oil indicates that there's trans fatty acids in that product. Trans fatty acids are not a natural fat form, so our body really doesn't recognize it. And it causes more of a clogging of the system because we have no way to really process that fat rather than intaking natural forms of fats, which would be found in nuts and seeds, eggs, and a multitude of other good foods with that. There was a study done, actually many studies done on trans fatty acids and how detrimental those fats are to our health in general, across the board, from cardiovascular concerns to now other research coming out on learning and focus and concentration, all showing that trans fatty acid really does impair the body's ability to function normally. So one thing that you can do is just check the ingredient label and make sure that there's no partially hydrogenated oils on the label. The labeling industry, though, has actually gotten a little bit sneaky, and they will put on a package contains 0 grams trans fatty acids per serving. And what has been done is that the serving size has been changed and to basically decrease the trans fatty acid content to below what needs to be reported. So instead of looking at labels like that, you really have to read the ingredient list to make sure that the product truly is free of trans fatty acids. So those are a couple of things to avoid. Now, what are some things to add back in the diet that actually can enhance learning and memory? One thing is blueberries. Blueberries are really, really high in antioxidants. And so our brains, being mostly fat, are going to be really sensitive to damage. Just as our skin is really sensitive to sunburn, our brains are really sensitive to just what we call oxidative stress, or which is just damage done. And blueberries have been shown to be really beneficial as well. So there have been some studies done that show that the intake of blueberries regularly, clinically, it significantly increased learning and cognitive scores. And so blueberries really do enhance learning ability, and so it's really important to try to increase blueberries. If you can, I recommend about a cup of blueberries per day, and they're great in smoothies, great in salads, and just great to eat fresh. So it's a very easy thing to incorporate into the diet. Another food source that's really great for the brain is broccoli. Broccoli and actually all leafy greens are really great because they contain vitamin K. And vitamin K is also a nutrient that's been used, that we use to enhance brain function, learning ability, focus and concentration. So that nutrient is present in any leafy green. And by leafy green, I mean spinach, kale, chard, pretty much any lettuce, any type of leafy green, or broccoli in that whole cruciferous vegetable family. So eat your greens, right? Good source of vitamin K across the board. Omega-3 fatty acids are also very important. So another food that is incredibly important to eat for optimal brain function is wild salmon. Wild salmon is a very rich source of omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3 fatty acids are very critical for brain development, but also important for anti-inflammatory or lowering inflammation in the body, and so they really help with learning, focus, and concentration. Another great food is pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are great for actually numerous reasons. One, they're a really great protein source, and so in terms of snack for kids' lunches or just adding pumpkin seeds into your morning oatmeal can be a great way to add protein to the diet for what we talked about before of stabilizing blood sugar. But pumpkin seeds are actually a really great source of zinc. And zinc, in addition to its known benefits of being great for your immune system and preventing illness, actually show to improve focus and concentration. And so high zinc diet is really important too if you're talking about learning and performance in school or on the job. Another great herb to look to incorporate is rosemary. Rosemary is a really wonderful fragrant herb, and it actually increases blood flow to the brain. And so this is used a lot as populations tend to age and have decreased blood flow in the brain and kind of early signs of dementia and Alzheimer's, that rosemary can be very helpful to be something that's incorporated into the diet on a regular basis. These are just a couple of the foods that are really good power brain foods. There's numerous other foods, but just wanted to highlight several of them today.